Hello everyone, Joey here. Welcome to Quartz Quadrant Zone tutorial for CD93 Glitched. I'm going to go through every zone in order, and yeah, let's just get started. So at the beginning of Act 1, there's a red spring right behind it, which we're going to use to get the momentum we want to start. You're going to see that I rolled off this ramp, and I bonked the ceiling. With precise sub-pixel manipulation, you can get a more horizontal distance. So what you want to do here is when you hold left, you want to release left within a 2-frame window. That 2-frame window being a 38 or 40 centisecond pause. So I pause at 40 here. So if I hold down here, I get a more horizontal distance, and I cover like a lot more distance, and I just have more momentum going forward. If you do miss this window, if you somehow miss this window, if you get a pause on this first ramp, this little first slope on the ground, you get like a little backup and you get some horizontal distance as well. Not as much as the other one, but you do get a good amount of it. But anyways. So going back to this frame here, gonna roll here, jump on the first flat, and then we're gonna keep moving forward. So when we get up here, you wanna roll on this badnik and jump. So this part here, there's a little hole that can take you to a bottom path. You do not want to go down here. This is not optimal. So instead of doing that, you want to make sure you jump when you're on the slope and just jump over it. It's really not obvious that's there, but you do not want to go down. That's not the path you want to take. So after you make that jump, preferably you want to go neutral here. You want to hit this red spring right below you. So holding forward that whole way, there's a chance that you just end up walking right over it. And the other chance is if you just hold right for too long, then you just speed cap it. But for certainty, you want to at least speed cap just roughly on the top part of that conveyor belt, because you don't want to jump over it, walk over it accidentally, because you do want to take this red spring. There you go. You don't want that to happen. So after you do that, you get sent upwards, and roughly when you bypass that invincibility monitor and you get close to the rings, you want to speed cap. So you land roughly around this slope here. Naturally, what could happen is after you make that bounce, you could get like this slope to push you back down, which sets you up for an MPO or a peel out like much more quickly. But if it doesn't, then just MPO, or yeah, just speed cap, and if you end up just not getting dropped down, just stop or wherever you stop and just charge a peel out from there and just continue onwards. There's a little gap here that you're gonna approach. You want to either just be neutral so you don't speed cap through it, or just jump over it and just persevere. See, you don't want to speed cap there. The speed cap there. So what you could do is just jump it, then keep going. And then once you approach that second hole, just roll, and you want to roll up to this point here. And you get the speed shoes right over here. So you could just hold forward, and you have a 3 to 4 frame window to jump this. I believe this is the first frame, but if done well, you do not hit this yellow spring, and you also can just go into this hole pretty seamlessly. So this part is relatively a decent window to make. Charge a peel out, get a jump like roughly around the edge, and you land it right here. And once you're here, you want to roll through this enemy because he's in your way. And then you're gonna see this little passageway right above you, like on a top right angle. In order to make this more seamlessly, once you make this jump, after this jump from the speed shoes, once you land, you want to make sure you're already rolling. So you're slightly going slower so you can make this jump easier. The visual cue I use is this little like beam that's like on this upper tube here. That's naturally a good cue to get the jump off, to not bonk into any surface or any ceiling, any bit of the staircase. So you pull that off. You can just make through that. Yeah, so if you jump too early, then you bonk that, and you just have to just persevere. It's not the biggest time loss in the world, but of course, if you want to just make sure you get the optimal time, You want to avoid that. So after you make this jump, preferably what I would like to do is after you get this jump, just slow down a little bit because there's an enemy or there's like a piece of ground that can block you if you're still in max momentum. So it just gives you more time to make that jump. So you have to make a jump over that and make one more jump to get over this ledge here. And if optimal, you can get a 22-second time, which is really nice. Yeah, Quartz Quadrant 1 is pretty simple. Just make sure you get the jumps you want and just time them accordingly. And of course, this beginning part as well. But it's a relatively simple stage, just you gotta land your jumps accordingly. So that's not a bad stage. So yeah, optimal, you want to get a 22, maybe 23-second time. And you're pretty much good to go. So Quartz Quadrant 2, this is where the game gets, it gets a little tricky for the zone. At the start here, you want to get as much momentum as possible. So coming up into this part, you want to charge a full MPO. And when you charge this full MPO, you want to start holding forward. So you just maintain this momentum. So there's a ledge right beside you. So because you want to keep holding right for as much momentum as possible, right before you get to the edge of this of ledge, of course, you want to release right so you don't speed cap accidentally. So this is the final frame that you can hold the right for before you speed cap. So if you get a pause like this, you pretty much you held right for the maximum amount of time, giving yourself the most amount of speed possible up to this point. But any other distance, at least within like a 3 to 4 frame window, it's relatively decent enough to get the momentum you need. So this should be fine. And once you land, you want to keep holding right again. You keep moving, and you want to get a pause roughly not under this platform here, this little ceiling here. You want to get a pause roughly around this ballpark. So if I jump on this pause here, this one worked out in my favor. But if you end up having less momentum off this first first runaway right here, if I do that exact same thing, there's a chance that I hit this yellow spring and I bonk this wall here. What you want to happen is you hit this yellow spring and you bonk this ceiling and you keep your momentum. So you want to avoid that at all costs. The other outcome would be jumping too late, so you don't bonk the ceiling and you end up just going down normally. If this happens, then you just have to slow down and persevere like nothing happened. And make sure you cut off your time travel. You don't want to time travel at any point in Quartz Quadrant. But if that happens, then you just play out that part normally and make sure you don't time travel. But if you do pull it off successfully, what you want to happen is you hit this yellow spring and you bonk this ceiling, and then you keep going. After this, there's two things you can do here. One more optimal than the other. So after this landing, after that bonk, you want to either speed cap, so you land roughly on this flat here. And you see how time travel is still going. So what you could do is just roll to cancel it out, jump over that yellow, and just keep going from there. Yeah, so speed cap, roll, jump over that badnik, and then keep going from there. Or the more optimal way, if you choose to, once you bonk that ceiling, you can hold left for a couple frames. I say roughly like between 4 to 6 frames. What will happen instead is you roll off, you run off that piece of ground, and you don't even touch this yellow spring, and you just essentially just keep that momentum up until this hole here. But because you have to cancel out this time travel eventually, what you want to do just before you land is intentionally speed cap and then roll off out of this landing. When you hit the badnik, you jump. So that's the most optimal way, and it saves you like just over half a second or close to a second. It's definitely the best way to do this part if you want to be optimal. But if you want to be safe, then you could just slow down a little and then jump over and continue onwards. So after that, you have another section just like the spot you jumped off in Quartz Quadrant 1, except you're just in a different set of speed. Decent cue to jump this is you want to have Sonic just roughly below this first incline of like in the ceiling. So if you jump on this frame, you just cleanly get over that. Of course, that all changes depending on like how you do this part. It can vary a little bit, but more or less, that's a decent window to make this jump. Once you're airborne, that red spring tends to not really get in your way. So after you make this jump here, you want to land on these speed shoes. But make sure you avoid this red spring. This red spring's hitbox is bigger than it looks. It may seem like you don't hit it in some cases. So you just want to ensure you're far enough to the right to get the hit cleanly. So after you get these speed shoes here, you want to do a medium jump that avoids both that second enemy and the red spring. And keep holding forward, and you see this little caterpillar in your way. You want to just roll off of him, get the kill, and then full jump off of that. And there's two more enemies in your way. And then you do the same for this guy, roll off, jump. And then you see one more enemy, roll off him, and once you're in this final flat of this like strip of floor, full jump. So just go through that again. Medium jump, roll, jump, roll, jump, roll, jump. And you clear these blue enemies right there. And you do the same on this guy. Roll, jump. Oh no, you jump over him. My bad. Yeah, so this part can be really tricky because with all these rings and sprites in the way, this little section right here can lag slightly. So your timing can be a little off. Yeah, so jump over him. And then this part, you want to jump, not jump to the tube above, but jump like a little past it to break this wall. You want to keep going forward. There's a chance that you get some momentum off of this jump here. Preferably, the earlier you jump, the better. You see you have like more momentum going towards it instead of completely stopping. Or a little closer. It really depends on positioning, and you can get a landing like that. But what sometimes can happen is you don't make that landing, and if you don't get momentum, then you just full jump and land on the red spring. So it's a little faster if you get the optimal results. So after you do that, this red spring takes you up to this section here. And now we have to pull off an MPO. But this is probably one of the more difficult MPOs to pull off in the game because you have so little wiggle room. So what you want to do here is, you know, position yourself to the very left of this shield box and just do a up, jump, and pause more or less close to the same frame as possible. So you get an MPO, and then you switch to down right, and you unpause, repause as quick as you can, and then switch to up. So you can MPO just right through that wall. So again, of course, if you do it much faster, then you slowly get through that. But, you know, the faster you do it, or like the quicker that MPO is, the harder it is to actually not bonk this wall. If you bonk this wall, then you have to just back up and try that again. But if you do make this wall, if you do clip through this wall, all you gotta do is just jump over. What you could do is, after you clip into this wall, there's many ways you can approach this. You can just run up, jump, and land on the conveyor belt and run through this red spring. There's a chance that the red spring can take you up, so a safer route you can do is just do a small jump right over it. But this can also lead to you accidentally fall into this hole here, which you don't want. You want to keep running through that section, this midsection here. So what you can do is just do a small jump, make sure you're not going too fast, and then comfortably land on this conveyor belt, and you keep going from there. After this, just before you touch this conveyor belt, you can full jump, and you land on this conveyor belt here, and roughly you want to jump on the first few frames of this green block, or the last frames of this conveyor belt here. So if you jump this, you land on this green block here, and you could run through the rest of the stage. If you don't end up pulling that off, what could happen is, if you jump on the final frames here, you can end up falling up through this hole here, which you don't want. But if you do end up falling into this hole, it's not the end of the world. You can make it up if you fall down here. All that happens is that you end up in a flat area, and you just keep going, take this red spring, and just MPO from here. Or just walk through it, actually. It's just some time loss you don't want. But yeah, so let me just start from the beginning. Charge a full MPO, forward, get as most momentum as possible, let go of right, run through this, get a pause roughly on this angle here, full jump. But yeah, you can see how detrimental not having enough speed for that part is. And of course, holding right for too long speed caps, which kind of ruins your flow. Let's try this again. Full jump off this, get the bonk, hold left for a couple frames, speed cap, roll jump, jump, speed shoes, mid jump, roll jump, roll jump, roll jump. No jump there, but it's not the biggest time loss. It's just the slightly more optimal way. End up here, smallest MPO in the world, small jump, full jump here, full jump roughly around there. You see you barely make it, so it's better when it's closer to the green block than standing on the conveyor belt, but you can still make it though. Run through this. There you go. A more optimal time you want is roughly a 21 or 22 second time. But 23 or 24 is still decently good. Roll jump, roll jump, roll jump, jump, jump. MPO, small jump, jump on the final flat, jump roughly here, and you land right there. So yeah, that's Quartz Quadrant 2. Much more going on than Quartz 1, but it's also a pretty simple stage, minus the MPO being pretty tricky. So going into Quartz Quadrant 3 here, there's a setup you want to do. There's two ways you can approach this boss fight. So we have another red spring on our right, on our left, that we're going to use to just get through this part. Once we get to the slope, you want to just do a mid-high jump, and you get into this conveyor belt. It's a more optimal entrance to that conveyor belt. Yeah, so you don't bonk the ceiling, you end up here. And then you want to preferably stand around this area to do it peel out from here. So there's two ways you can approach this. So once you get up here, once I get up there you go. Okay. So when you get here, there's two things you can do. You can peel out. Let Sonic just peel out and bonk this wall here. And what you want to do here is perform an MPO here. So you want to charge a full peel out, hold down right, and then hold up. And then Sonic's just gonna just clip through this wall here. So you want to keep holding this direction until Sonic passes by that monitor just above him. And from there, you want to go back inbound. So once you get that, you want to make sure you unpause, be neutral for a little bit. You don't want to jump with peel out momentum. So after Sonic releases that peel out, jump. But you can see, like, you want to make sure you're a little further in that wall, though. So peel out. Full peel out. Charge an MPO. Be a little further to the right. Then jump. And you see that, instead of bonking this monitor, I end up back in bounds. But if that happens, then you just have to just slowly MPO back through this wall to clip back in bounds, and you end up in the boss fight. But another alternative is if you end up in a certain position on that platform. So this platform here, the range, it's specific. It's not entirely specific, but it's also based on subpixels. So what I generally want to look at is like the white of Sonic's shoe. The end of the white of his shoe, if it's lined up within this range, this like light yellow range, that's generally a good spot to pull off alternative route for this part going to the boss, which is approximately like 2 seconds faster than the bottom route. So if you want to pull that off, see if this is a good safe for this. Because subpixels and positioning can differ this. Okay, so preferably if it's a little more further to the left here. Further to the left is usually more preferred. So what you want to do here is you want a specific jump on this conveyor belt here. Of course, unfortunately, due to being subpixels, sometimes the chance of it working is not even in the cards. But if you do get it optimally, let's try this save state. Okay, so you get this result. So when you peel out here, I'll frame advance. So when you're approaching this conveyor belt hill, the one that Sonic comes into, there's 5 different things. There's 5 different frames that Sonic changes his angle towards when he lands here. So when he lands on the first frame, you see he's in this upwards right angle when he lands. This is not the frame you want to jump. You want to jump on the 3rd frame after he lands, or the 5th. So this is first frame. This is 2nd. You see he's completely still. This is his correct, angle he should be. And in the 3rd frame, he's in this downwards right angle. So you want to either jump on this frame, and on the 4th frame, he's on a fixed angle again. And on the 5th frame, he's on that exact same angle as the 3rd. So these are the 2 jump frames you want to jump on. The 3rd and the 5th frame he lands. So if I jump on this frame, or I should probably get off a frame advance first. So do this again. So this is 3rd frame. If done right, so you get an angle jump, and you get all the way over there. So that's 4th frame, so I want to delay this jump. Did not do it successfully. So as you can see, this part is relatively tricky. Of course, even so, subpixels is a factor of whether you get the jump or not, but those are relatively the frames you're looking for. Yeah, so it seems like 3rd frame isn't working here, but the 5th one does. Let's change my subpixels. Yeah, that one still didn't work. The 3rd frame is being really stubborn. But 5th frame works just fine. But both can work if the subpixels are in a favorable position. And of course, positioning of when you do the MPO matters as well. Which is the unfortunate bit of this trick here. Naturally, you don't want to... Okay, now 3rd frame works. So that was 2nd frame pause, but delayed for the 3rd. But yeah, unfortunately, you don't want to like spend too much time positioning yourself. Just be not too far to the left. Like, preferably, you don't want to be this far back to the left. It won't work. You want to have some range within this ballpark. And just MPO and try to snag the frames that work there. Let's try this again. So that worked. Try it one more time. Okay, that didn't work. Yeah, so top half is not it's not worth it at all. You want to take this area here. Yeah, so if that just doesn't work, then you just have to MPO through this. And come over here. So when you're in this boss fight, so there's 2 types of boss fights you can get here. Depending on how you approach going towards this. If you approach it the normal way and the not so fast way, of course, hit the boss first so the fight starts the way you need it to. And in order to progress through this boss fight, the boss fight progresses the more you're in max running speed. So basically, if you don't choose to run this at all, the fight isn't progressing at all. You have to run max speed to keep the fight going and not slow down. So when you want to do that, you want to make sure you're running the whole way through. So what you want to do is, as soon as you hit him, start running max speed. But when eventually he starts throwing these bombs towards you, once the bomb is more or less in its head height, you want to switch to left, just a screech, and then immediately jump over. But don't jump too early or you get hit, and that does slow down the fight because you have to be running at max speed. Screech, jump, and just rinse repeat. So this keeps going for roughly, I naturally have not counted this, but it goes for a good while. So just make sure you screech, and of course it goes faster the less you screech and the earlier you jump and make sure you run. But like once Robotnik is done, the piece he was standing on explodes and he runs away. So the last thing you want to do is charge a full peel out, and preferably you want to release the peel out as soon as the sprite deloads. So you run the earliest possible time once the boss finishes and you destroy the capsule. That's what you want. So there's a chance if you do pull off the peel out strat that actually gives you the momentum to make this jump. There is a chance if you end up going to that boss fight really fast. So let me emphasize, after you make this jump, you land on these two conveyor belts. You see this little inclines on the end of these conveyor belts. If you jump through these, you get way more momentum, and you go really fast to the right. But if you somehow go way too fast, you end up going to the boss fight in a way where the screen pans down, and you can't even see Robotnik ship any... Oh. Naturally, I didn't think this was possible. I didn't think you'd get through that. That's interesting. Interesting. Alright, anyways, but don't do that, preferably. So, if you jump on this incline, I run over, this will happen. So you can't see the bombs at all. So naturally, once the bomb drops, you can tell the bomb drops once you hear like the buzzing sound the second time. You want to screech and just let it go. For some reason, the conveyor belt's movement is much different here. The timings is not the same compared to the normal way. So if you wait till the bomb is roughly around Eggman's head, if you hold back, you just don't escape it quick enough and you get hit. So your releases, you switching to left has to be much earlier. And you do end up getting a slower fight overall because you have to back out of the bomb much earlier than normal. So unfortunately, you do have a slower fight when you approach the boss like this. But you can do the boss fight. It's just hard to do it because there's just no obvious visual cue since the screen is panned down. So most runners would want to avoid this setup. But if you can't help it, then the boss fight can still be maneuvered and you can still get a decent time. Yeah, so optimally you'd want a 53 or 54 time, which involves getting like the top route using the MPO jump conveyor belt strat, and of course not getting hit in the boss in the first place. So 53, 54 is the time you're looking for. 55, 56, 57 is pretty decent for the bottom route using the MPO through the wall. But if done well, you do get a sub 1. This is more or less what you want. So yeah, that's Quartz Quadrant. But yeah, Quartz Quadrant 3 is a stage that can go wrong just for that part alone, if those 2 seconds means a lot. But you want to ensure that you get a good fight. You want to at least just jump on these flats, and you don't get that kind of boss fight, and you can just do the run, and you can actually see the bombs that fall. So yeah, that's Quartz Quadrant.